Hi, this is a quick tutorial on introducing your quotes. So once you've found high quality quotes, information, research that you want to use in your writing, it's important that you start perfecting your ability to introduce those quotes to maximize their emphasis and their kind of effectiveness in your writing. So introducing your quotes can, one, provide context. It gives the reader clues about the situation where this quote has been taken from. Two, can help to identify who's speaking, which helps to orient the reader in terms of knowing what perspective this quote is coming from or whose perspective this quote is coming from, because there can definitely be a bias, or if it's in literature, the person speaking, we understand a little bit more about their life experience and their relationship to other characters. Three, it can make it clear who is being spoken to, and the audience of a quote can impact the way in which it is read, understood, perceived. Four, state the reader's credentials or education. What about this person makes them an authority on this topic? So, particularly when you're writing an argument paragraph or you're including research, you want to convince your reader that this is really strong research, that you've chosen someone who is an authority on this topic. And five, you should always name the publication where a quote is taken from if it's relevant. So if it's an online news media outlet, if it's a research document, if it's a primary source, if it's a text where you found the quote, naming the publication can add some legitimacy and also help to kind of orient the reader to better understand where is this information coming from. So I want to give you some examples, since examples are often the easiest way to learn how to do this. We can model our own writing after other people's examples. And this first example is an example of how you can use a quote introduction to provide context. The introduction begins, Scout begins the novel To Kill a Mockingbird, describing her town of Maycomb as, quote, an old town, but it was a tired old town when I first knew it. So we know that Scout is speaking. She's our narrator in the novel. We know this quote is taken from the beginning of the novel, and we know she's describing the town she lives in, which is going to be the setting for the novel. The second example identifies the speaker. In John F. Kennedy's inaugural address, he said, "We observe today not a victory of party, but a celebration of freedom, symbolizing an end as well as a beginning, signifying renewal as well as change." So we know the speaker is John F. Kennedy. We know this is in his inaugural address before we ever get to his quote. This next example identifies who is being spoken to. I also stated the speaker, as it's nice to have both, and this is another example from To Kill a Mockingbird. So our speaker is Atticus, and the audience is Scout. So we want to make that clear, particularly because Scout is the narrator, so most of the story is told from her perspective, but in this moment, Atticus is speaking. Atticus explains to his daughter Scout that, quote, "You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it." This next example states the speaker's credentials and education. This is an example about digital courses, and I've chosen a quote from a gentleman who's actually the creator of a collection of very successful courses through a company that he started called Coursera. It says, Andrew Ng, director of artificial intelligence at Stanford University and creator of Coursera, asserts, quote, "Digital courses allow the most sought after classes taught by the most knowledgeable educators to be accessible even worldwide, helping students finish college quicker." So clearly, I've chosen someone at the top of his field with a lot of legitimacy in the area of digital online courses. And then in this example, I name the publication where I grab this quote. It says, in Stephanie Clifford's New York Times article, "Some retailers say more about their clothing origins," she argues that, quote, "the revolution that has swept the food industry is expanding to retail. Origin matters." So not only do I have the title of the article, the publication, but I also have the author's name in here as well. So it's nice to include as much of that information as you have access to that's relevant to what you're stating. But the more you can orient your reader, the more you can highlight the strengths of the speakers, the the places where you've grabbed quotes, the stronger your writing is going to be overall.